In a dramatic turn of events, Barbara Edwards found herself in a nightmare of betrayal and despair. Her once happy life took a dark twist when she overheard her husband, Arnold, and his lover plotting her demise to gain her inheritance. Abandoned at a dump, Barbara, grappling with the shock of betrayal and the harsh reality of her situation, could hardly believe the depth of her husband's treachery. But fate had a surprising twist in store. Just as her world seemed to crumble, Barbara was discovered by Rhonda and Melvin, an elderly couple who had made the dump their home. Their kindness and warmth offered Barbara a glimmer of hope amidst the wreckage of her shattered life. As she began to recover, the once bleak landscape of her existence transformed into a place of unexpected comfort and new beginnings, highlighting the profound impact of compassion in the face of adversity. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Before we dive into this story, please let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Barbara slowly regained consciousness amidst the desolate wasteland. After overhearing a chilling conversation between her husband and his mistress about their sinister plans regarding her inheritance, she feigned death. Gradually, with immense effort, the cold, hard surface beneath her began to register in her numb senses. Her eyelids felt as if they were weighed down by leaden weights, and her body was stubbornly unresponsive. She emitted a groan, attempting to push herself upright, but the searing pain in her head felt like a relentless barrage of bells ringing incessantly, and spots swirled in her vision like phantom shadows. A surge of panic raced through her mind as she struggled to comprehend her surroundings. Mountains of refuse loomed around her, the oppressive stench of decay filling her nostrils, while a gang of audacious crows circled ominously above. The cracked and filthy ground beneath her was strewn with shards of broken glass, discarded tin cans, and assorted debris. Barbara Edwards fought to lift herself, struggling against the disorienting fog of oblivion that clouded her thoughts. Her memory offered only fragmented and haunting echoes of the past. Her father's grave, the cemetery's somber silence, a deep, pervasive sorrow, a conversation with Arnold, followed by an unsettling void, a chasm of darkness. How did I end up in this nightmare? Barbara attempted to rise, but her legs betrayed her, causing her to crumple back onto the ground. Just then, the distant sound of an approaching car engine pierced the silence. She strained to listen as the engine's roar grew louder, signaling its approach. An opulent SUV emerged from behind a mound of discarded tires, catching her attention. Her vision was blurred with tears, making the vehicles form a mere indistinct shape. The SUV came to a halt nearby. As her vision cleared slightly, she could discern that she still couldn't make out the faces of the occupants. The vehicle's door swung open, revealing two figures. A tall, imposing man clad in a high-end suit and a sophisticated, slender brunette. Barbara, with a sense of urgency and wisdom, concealed herself behind a sheet of rusted iron. Through the gaps, she overheard fragments of the conversation between these two unfamiliar figures who had chosen the city dump as their clandestine meeting spot. "Are you certain that no one witnessed her?" a concerned female voice inquired. "I assure you, everything proceeded without a hitch. I selected this location. Who would think to look for my wife in such a place?" responded the self-satisfied male voice, carrying an undertone of familiarity that sent a chill through Barbara's core. "Wife? What is he implying? And what if she awakens?" The woman's voice trembled with apprehension. The man's response was a chilling, guttural laugh. "She won't wake up. I ensured that the dosage was potent enough to either end her life or induce permanent amnesia. Moreover, who would believe the ramblings of a deranged woman found at a dump? They'll attribute her condition to shock and memory loss." His voice dripped with a cruel, calculated menace. Barbara listened in horror. "Oh my God. He's speaking about me as though I'm already deceased. Is it possible that he brought me here to discard me like unwanted refuse? Why would he do this? And what about the inheritance?" "The inheritance?" The woman's voice lingered with a sweet, almost seductive tone. "Don't worry. I've already reported Barbara as missing, claiming she's been unstable since her father's passing and even suggested she might be suicidal. When they find her body, there will be no room for doubt. Your husband has covered all bases. You seem to have thought of everything. You're quite ingenious." The woman cooed. Barbara fought to suppress the lump in her throat as the cruel reality crystallized. Her husband had turned into a villain. But who was this woman plotting with him? And what was her next move? "And the inheritance? Are you certain that it will be yours?" The woman's voice was laced with a deceptive sweetness. "Of course, how could it be otherwise? Upon her death, all of her assets will be transferred to me." The husband replied with a smug, self-satisfied tone. "Oh, you're simply precious." The woman cooed, and Barbara heard the faint sound of a kiss. Summoning her last reserves of strength, she peered cautiously from behind the heap of refuse. At last, her vision, no longer clouded by pain and disorientation, unveiled the full scope of her torment. A mere few meters away stood the figures of her husband Arnold and his paramour. Barbara's heart felt as though it had shattered into a million irreparable fragments as she watched her husband embrace and kiss the other woman with an intensity that left her breathless. The person she had once held closest to her heart had betrayed her most egregiously. "When are we heading to the Canary Islands?" "I've already selected a stunning mansion there," the woman inquired with a tone of entitled expectation. "Once I secure the inheritance, Bessie will be living in opulence," Arnold vowed, pulling her into a loving embrace. Barbara's mind was a tempest of searing fury as she listened to their conversation, the sting of betrayal morphing into a fierce resolve. "Not so fast," she thought with burning determination. "They won't get away with this. They will face justice." Yet the looming question remained, how could she reveal their treachery? She had no tangible proof. As Barbara grappled with this disheartening realization, she observed the couple, entwined in their embrace, making their way to the car. Fighting to maintain her footing, she watched as the vehicle, carrying away her shattered dreams, disappeared into the distance. Her heart felt desolate, a cavernous void left by the departure of her hopes and the bitter taste of deceit. The tears that had once flowed freely had dried, leaving behind only the acrid sting of betrayal. "So this is what happiness looks like," Barbara whispered to herself as she felt the ground beneath her receding. The world around her spun into a chaotic whirlwind, and her body succumbed to a disorienting numbness. The last sensation before she succumbed to unconsciousness was the nauseating stench of garbage and the distant cawing of crows circling above. When consciousness returned, it was as if she were emerging from a dense fog. The first sensation was one of warmth, enveloping her like a comforting embrace. Then a peculiar aroma, an odd mix of smoke, mustiness, and a hint of something pleasantly reminiscent of freshly baked bread, reached her senses. She attempted to open her eyes, but they felt weighted down, as though burdened by lead. "Take it slow, dear. Don't rush," a soothing female voice murmured close to her ear. Barbara managed to open her eyes slightly. Hovering above her was a face marked by the passage of years, an elderly woman whose eyes, as blue as the sky, gazed at her with genuine warmth and compassion. "Where am I?" Barbara whispered once more, her memory of recent events fading into a vague blur, leaving her unsure of the elapsed time. "You're safe with us, dear. I'm Rhonda Weber, and this grumpy old fellow is Melvin Curry. We've been living together for a year now, after meeting each other. We're homeless," the kind woman explained with a gentle smile. Beside Rhonda stood a short, sturdy man with a thick gray beard. His eyes were filled with concern and relief as he looked at Barbara. "You poor thing, you've been through so much," Melvin said with evident sympathy. "Don't be so glum, Melvin. Look, she's come back to us. How are you feeling, dear?" Rhonda gently rebuked him. "Dizzy and weak all over," Barbara murmured, her voice barely audible, struggling to orient herself amidst the confusion and exhaustion. "It's all right, dear. We'll prepare a soothing tea with linden flowers and chamomile for you. It's known to heal all sorts of ailments. Wouldn't you agree, Melvin?" Rhonda's voice was full of warmth and reassurance. "Absolutely," Melvin chimed in, his eyes reflecting the same gentle kindness as Rhonda's. Barbara's gaze wandered around the modest interior. She found herself lying on a rudimentary bed draped with an old but neatly maintained blanket. The shack's walls, patched together from wooden planks and scraps of corrugated metal, were adorned with vibrant fabric pieces and magazine cutouts that added a splash of color and life to the otherwise stark environment. A rusty bucket, pocked with holes and perched on a stool, contained a crackling fire that bathed the space in a comforting glow and warmth. "So, where exactly am I?" Barbara repeated her question, a hint of embarrassment coloring her voice as she realized how trivial it might sound. "You're at the dump, dear. This is our home," Rhonda answered gently. Barbara opened her mouth to respond, but Melvin cut in. "No need to apologize, girl. We're used to people avoiding us." No, that's not what I meant. It's just that I can't find the right words to express my gratitude. You've saved me from a dire situation," Barbara said quickly, her voice trembling with sincerity. "There's no need for grand speeches. The important thing is that you're safe now," Rhonda said with a reassuring smile. She handed Barbara a steaming cup of tea. Barbara took a tentative sip, and a wave of comforting warmth spread through her. The tea was a blend of herbs, honey, and something subtly familiar yet distant. "This tea is wonderful. I've never tasted anything quite like it," Barbara murmured. "It's our special recipe, handed down through generations," Melvin said with a knowing smile and a playful wink. "Do you always live here, at the dump?" Barbara asked, struggling to phrase her question delicately. The warm tea began to ease the ache of her recent betrayal, but the painful memories of her husband's deceit were still fresh. Rhonda and Melvin exchanged glances. "We have a complex history," Rhonda began, her voice tinged with a hint of melancholy, "but it's not something we like to dwell on." "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intrude," Barbara said, feeling a pang of guilt. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 1 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. "It's all right," Melvin assured her kindly. "What matters now is that you're recovering. Tell us about yourself. How did you come to be in such a dire situation?" Barbara hesitated, reluctant to burden her newfound friends with her sorrow, but knowing that honesty was her only option. I've had a series of unfortunate events," she whispered. "The person I trusted most in the world betrayed me." "Do you have any family left?" Rhonda inquired softly. "No," Barbara replied, her voice breaking. "I'm entirely alone now. My father passed away 6 months ago." Tears threatened to spill, and she turned her face away, not wanting to trouble the elderly couple with her grief. "Don't cry, dear. You're not alone anymore. We're your family now," Rhonda said, her voice tender as she gently patted Barbara's hand. "Yes, we're here for you," Melvin added with a nod of agreement. Barbara looked at the elderly couple with deep gratitude. For the first time since discovering her husband's betrayal, a faint glimmer of hope began to stir within her. Thank you both for everything," she whispered, her heart swelling with appreciation. Rhonda's smile was warm and encouraging. "Rest now, dear. You need to regain your strength. Tomorrow is a new day, and we'll face it together." Barbara closed her eyes, allowing Rhonda's soothing words to envelop her like a gentle, healing embrace. The promise of a brighter tomorrow whispered with such kindness kindled a fragile hope within her weary heart. As she succumbed to a restless, sticky sleep, her dreams were not of respite but of a past that seemed both distant and painfully immediate. Guided by the elusive enchantments of Morpheus, the god of dreams, she found herself tossed and turned on her makeshift bed, ensnared in the tangled web of sleep. Through the mist of her dream, Barbara was transported to a sunlit schoolyard, bathed in the golden hues of September. There, she was a slender child with 2 neatly braided pigtails, darting toward her classroom with the nimbleness of youth. The air was filled with the joyous cacophony of laughter, the voices of friends, and the earthy aroma of fallen leaves drifting lazily in the breeze. "Barbara, wait! Look at this treasure I've found!" Jason, her lively deskmate, called out as he ran toward her, clutching a bundle of vibrant autumn maple leaves. "They're beautiful," Barbara beamed as she took the leaves from him, marveling at their brilliant colors. In that fleeting moment, Life seemed to stretch out before her like an endless expanse of cloudless sky, painted with every hue of the rainbow. Her mother would greet her after school with the comforting promise of a delicious lunch, and her father, a successful businessman, would shower her with exquisite dresses and toys. But this idyllic childhood was abruptly shattered, as though a delicate thread had snapped under the weight of fate's cruel hand. Her mother's sudden and severe illness burst into their lives like an unwelcome storm, leaving a void that was filled only with the profound ache of loss. At just 15, Barbara was thrust into the role of a grieving daughter, left to navigate life under the care of her heartbroken father. Dustin Edwards, once a vibrant and energetic man, seemed to age a decade in a single day. His once thriving timber export business now felt hollow and insignificant in the wake of such a profound personal loss. Barbara became his sole beacon of hope, his little ray of sunshine in a world darkened by grief. Though Dustin endeavored to shower his daughter with affection and indulgence, he could not replace the irreplaceable warmth and love of a mother. "Dad, please don't be sad. I'm here with you, and I'll always stand by your side," she would whisper, her fingers gently brushing his prematurely gray hair. In honor of her mother's wishes, Barbara enrolled in the economics faculty after school, immersing herself in her studies with the resolve to support her father and continue his legacy. The years sped by like a whirlwind, and Barbara graduated with distinction. Her father, overflowing with pride, entrusted her with a significant branch of his business without hesitation. "I have complete faith in you, my dear. You're incredibly intelligent. You'll succeed," Dustin said, handing her the keys to the office with a proud smile. And she did. Barbara proved herself to be a formidable leader. Her sharp analytical mind and keen business sense not only preserved her father's company but propelled it to new heights. In a matter of years, Barbara's life became a relentless cycle of meetings, negotiations, and contract signings. She amassed partners, competitors, and even envious rivals. Yet, amidst the successes and accolades, one crucial element remained conspicuously absent: love. One evening, after yet another grueling day, Barbara decided on a whim to take the bus for a few stops, seeking a brief respite from her relentless schedule. She sank into an empty seat by the window, her exhaustion palpable as she watched the city streets pass by in a blur of darkness. At the next stop, a man boarded the bus, a tall, broad-shouldered figure clad in a sharply tailored suit. His piercing blue eyes met hers, sending a jolt of electricity through Barbara's chest. The stranger's smile was disarmingly radiant, revealing a perfect row of white teeth. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" he inquired, his voice smooth and inviting. Barbara looked up, her surprise evident as she took in the striking man before her, who seemed to have stepped straight out of a magazine cover. His intense eyes, framed by thick lashes, locked onto hers, and a subtle, engaging smile played at the corners of his lips. "No, it's not taken. Please, have a seat," Barbara responded, her cheeks flushing with an involuntary warmth. Arnold chuckled softly, his eyes twinkling with amusement as he helped Barbara regain her balance. "No need to apologize," he said, his voice warm and reassuring. "It's not every day I get a surprise like that." Barbara felt her cheeks flush crimson, mortified by the unintended proximity. "I'm sorry," she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean to." "Don't worry about it," Arnold interrupted, his smile never fading. "It's not a problem at all." Barbara took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. She settled back into her seat, her heart still racing from the unexpected contact. Arnold's presence was oddly comforting, a stark contrast to the long, weary day she'd just endured. "So, Arnold," Barbara said, attempting to shift the conversation back to more familiar ground, "what kind of projects are you working on these days?" Arnold's eyes lit up as he spoke about his work. "Oh, I'm currently working on a new community center project. It's quite exciting. Designing spaces that bring people together and make a difference in their lives. I love seeing a concept come to life and knowing it will be part of people's daily experiences." Barbara listened, intrigued by his passion. "That sounds wonderful. I've always admired architects," The ability to shape and create spaces that impact people's lives is impressive. Arnold grinned, clearly pleased by her interest. Thank you. It's a lot of work, but it's incredibly rewarding. As the bus rolled on, the conversation flowed easily between them. Barbara found herself laughing more freely than she had in a long time, the heaviness of her earlier troubles momentarily lifted by Arnold's engaging company. And you? Arnold said, turning to her with a curious expression. What's the most fulfilling part of managing your branch? Barbara thought for a moment before answering. It's seeing the results of our efforts, the projects coming to fruition, the growth of the company. It's fulfilling to know that what we do makes a difference, even if it's just a small part of a larger picture. Arnold nodded thoughtfully. That's a great perspective. It sounds like you've worked hard to get where you are. Barbara nodded, a slight smile on her lips. Yes, it's been a long journey. The bus finally reached her stop, and Barbara gathered her things, preparing to disembark. She hesitated for a moment, looking at Arnold with a mixture of gratitude and regret. It was nice talking to you, Arnold. Thank you for the pleasant conversation and for not minding my clumsiness. Arnold's smile softened. It was my pleasure, Barbara. I enjoyed our chat. Maybe we'll run into each other again sometime. Barbara nodded, feeling a surprising sense of warmth at the prospect. I'd like that. As Barbara stepped off the bus, she glanced back at Arnold, who was watching her with a friendly wave. For the first time since her world had been turned upside down, she felt a flicker of hope and a glimmer of connection. She walked away from the bus stop with a lighter step, feeling as if she had taken a small but significant step toward healing. Dad, don't be sad. I'm here with you, and I'll always be by your side, Barbara would whisper, gently stroking his prematurely gray hair. After school, Barbara, as her mother had dreamed, enrolled in the economics faculty and threw herself into her studies, understanding that she needed to become a support for her father and continue his work. The years of study flew by. Barbara graduated with honors, and her father, proud of her, without hesitation, handed her one of the branches of his company. I believe in you, my dear. You're so smart. You'll succeed, Dustin said as he handed her the keys to the office. And she did. Barbara proved to be a talented leader. Her analytical mind and sharp business acumen not only helped her preserve her father's business, but also grew it. Within a few years, Barbara's life became an endless cycle of business meetings, negotiations, and contract signings. She gained partners, competitors, and even some envious rivals. But she was missing the most important thing: love. One evening, after yet another long and exhausting day, Barbara unexpectedly decided to take the bus for a few stops. She wearily sank into an empty seat by the window and watched the night streets fleeting by. At the next stop, he boarded the bus. A tall, broad-shouldered man in a sharp suit. His piercing blue eyes met hers, and Barbara's heart skipped a beat. The stranger smiled at her, a dazzling smile that revealed a row of perfect white teeth. Excuse me, is this seat taken? Barbara looked up and blinked in surprise. Standing before her was a man who looked like he had just stepped off the cover of a glossy magazine. His piercing eyes, framed by thick dark lashes, were fixed on her, and a slightly inviting smile played on his lips. Yes, of course. Please have a seat, Barbara murmured, feeling her cheeks flush with warmth. Arnold nodded, quickly glanced at her business suit, then looked back into her eyes, his smile lightening. Thank you. Rough day? He asked as he settled into the seat beside her. Yes, meetings, negotiations. Barbara started but immediately checked herself. Why share details with a stranger, even if he was incredibly attractive? I know the feeling. I spent the whole day in the office myself. Sometimes I just want to escape from all those papers, reports, and contracts. He nodded sympathetically. The man sighed, then turned to Barbara again. Forgive my bluntness, but you seem a bit upset. Did something happen? Barbara couldn't help but smile. She hadn't expected such attention from a stranger on the bus. No, everything's fine, she hastened to reassure him. I'm just a little tired. I understand. The man nodded. And here I am, wondering how I'm going to finish this report by tomorrow. My boss is a real tyrant, he said theatrically, furrowing his brow to mimic a stern boss. Barbara couldn't suppress her laughter. Do you always work late? She asked, now genuinely curious about her new acquaintance. I try not to, but today's an exception. We're launching a new project, and everything needs to be double-checked, the man replied. Are you? Barbara hesitated. Are you an accountant? The man laughed. God forbid. Numbers and I have a complicated relationship. I'm an architect, he said. An architect? I would never have guessed, Barbara said, surprised. What? You think I'm just some boring office drone? If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 2 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. No, I create beauty, homes, parks, office buildings, he teased playfully, exaggerating. Then he fell silent for a moment as if lost in thought. And what do you do? He asked after a brief pause, turning back to Barbara. I manage a branch of a company, she replied, somewhat embarrassed. Really? I wouldn't have guessed. You were a big boss. You look so cozy, the man said, clearly surprised. Barbara blushed deeply. She wasn't sure why she had downplayed her position to this stranger. Perhaps she just wanted to feel like an ordinary woman receiving compliments, rather than the iron lady she often had to be. You're very observant, she said, trying to calm her racing heart. It's part of the job. An architect has to notice details. By the way, I'm Arnold Ferguson, he smiled, extending his hand. Barbara hesitantly touched his hand, surprised by its warmth and strength. Barbara, she whispered shyly. The bus came to a sudden stop, causing Barbara to lose her balance and fall directly onto Arnold, pinning him against the seat. Her lips ended up dangerously close to his face, and her nose bumped against his cheek. Arnold smelled of expensive cologne and something comfortingly familiar, as if Barbara had known him all her life. Sorry, she stammered, trying to right herself. No worries. With you, I'd brave anything, even a bus accident. Arnold laughed, helping her back to her seat. At that moment, their eyes met again. Arnold's eyes sparkled with mischief, and his lips curled into a broad smile. Barbara found herself smiling back involuntarily. I'm sorry, she muttered. I'm just so clumsy today. But unpredictable, that's much more interesting. Arnold winked at her. Their conversation continued as the bus journeyed on, filled with laughter and easy camaraderie. Arnold escorted Barbara to the bus door, and just before stepping off at her stop, he called out, Barbara, maybe you could give me your phone number? I'm afraid I might never meet someone like you again. Laughing, Barbara recited her number, her heart singing. Little did she know that this evening and that chance encounter on the bus would change her life forever. Their romance blossomed quickly. Arnold turned out to be the man she had been waiting for her entire life. Attentive, caring, with a great sense of humor. Barbara thrived like a delicate flower under the warm rays of spring sunlight. She was absolutely happy, and it seemed like nothing could disrupt their idyllic life. Finally, the wedding day arrived. Barbara meticulously checked her reflection in the mirror. The white dress with its lace bodice fit her figure perfectly, and the long veil adorned with delicate pearls cascaded down her back. As she took in her reflection, she felt a sense of joy and fulfillment, a testament to the love and happiness she had found with Arnold. As the days turned into weeks, Barbara and Arnold's bond grew stronger. Their encounters were filled with laughter, warmth, and the joy of discovering each other's quirks and passions. Barbara found herself eagerly anticipating their dates, which often began with casual strolls through the city's parks and ended with intimate dinners at charming local restaurants. Arnold's presence brought a new rhythm to her life, a melody of spontaneity and affection that she had been missing for years. One crisp autumn afternoon, they decided to visit a local art gallery, an outing that had become a cherished tradition. As they wandered through the exhibits, Arnold's insightful observations and Barbara's thoughtful questions led to deep conversations about art, culture, and their philosophies. It was during these moments that Barbara felt a profound connection with Arnold, as if their souls were conversing in a language beyond words. Arnold's creative spirit was infectious, He shared stories about his architectural projects, each tale infused with his passion and dedication. Barbara listened intently, fascinated by his ability to see beauty and potential in every structure he designed. In return, Barbara shared her experiences running the company, her challenges and triumphs, and her aspirations for the future. Arnold admired her resilience and drive, finding inspiration in her commitment to both her work and her personal life. One evening, as they walked hand in hand through a park illuminated by the soft glow of street lamps, Arnold turned to Barbara with a thoughtful expression. "You know, I've been thinking about how fortunate we are to have met. Feels like fate brought us together." Barbara squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with affection. "I've been thinking the same thing. Meeting you has made me see life in a new light. You've helped me rediscover joy and wonder." Their relationship was not without its challenges. Barbara's demanding job and Arnold's busy schedule sometimes tested their patience. Yet their love proved resilient. They learned to navigate their differences with understanding and compromise. Barbara found solace in Arnold's unwavering support, while Arnold appreciated Barbara's ability to balance her professional ambitions with her personal life. As the months passed, their conversations about the future became more frequent. Arnold spoke of his dream to design a community center that would bring people together and enrich their lives. Barbara, inspired by his vision, began to consider how she could use her skills and resources to contribute to the causes she cared about. Together, they envisioned a future where their careers and personal passions intertwined to make a positive impact on their community. Their love story reached a new chapter when Arnold proposed during a weekend getaway to a picturesque vineyard. Surrounded by rolling hills and vineyards, Arnold got down on one knee and presented Barbara with a ring that sparkled like the stars above. Barbara's eyes filled with tears of joy as she said yes, her heart overflowing with happiness. The wedding was a celebration of their journey together. It was held in a beautiful garden, adorned with autumn flowers and twinkling fairy lights. As Barbara walked down the aisle in her elegant white dress, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had come so far from the girl who had once faced grief and loss. Now, she was stepping into a future filled with love and promise. During their vows, Barbara and Arnold spoke of their dreams and the unwavering support they promised each other. Their words echoed with sincerity and hope as they pledged to cherish and uplift one another through all of life's ups and downs. The ceremony was a testament to their love and the strength they had found in each other. The reception was a joyous affair, with friends and family celebrating the couple's union. Barbara's father, though no longer physically present, was remembered fondly in heartfelt toasts and cherished memories. Barbara felt his spirit with her, knowing that he would have been proud of the life she had built and the love she had found. As they embarked on their honeymoon, Barbara and Arnold reveled in their newfound freedom and shared dreams. They explored new destinations, each adventure strengthening their bond and creating lasting memories. Their love continued to flourish, and they embraced the challenges and joys of married life with open hearts. In the years that followed, Barbara and Arnold's relationship remained a source of strength and inspiration. They built a life together, filled with shared accomplishments and cherished moments. Barbara continued to excel in her career, using her success to support various charitable causes, while Arnold's architectural projects left a lasting impact on their community. Their love story was a testament to the power of serendipity and the beauty of finding one's soulmate. Barbara looked back on her journey with a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that the twists and turns of life had led her to the happiness she had always dreamed of. With Arnold by her side, she faced each new chapter with optimism and excitement, ready to embrace the future they would build together. As the evening unfolded, Barbara and Arnold basked in the warmth of their friends' and family's well wishes. The reception hall was a dazzling display of elegance, with twinkling fairy lights casting a soft glow over the gathering. The air was filled with the sounds of joyous laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the soft strains of a string quartet. Barbara's father, Dustin, although visibly moved, had a proud glint in his eye. He found himself reminiscing about the journey that had led to this day, the shared struggles, the moments of grief and triumph, and the transformation of his daughter from a grieving young woman into a radiant bride. He watched as Barbara danced with Arnold, her laughter ringing out like a melody, and he couldn't help but smile through his tears. The guests enjoyed a sumptuous feast, with courses that ranged from delicate appetizers to a decadent wedding cake adorned with intricate sugar flowers. Each bite was a testament to the meticulous planning and the joy of the occasion. Arnold's best man, a longtime friend named Mark, gave a heartfelt toast that touched everyone's hearts. He recounted amusing anecdotes about Arnold, highlighting his kindness and unwavering loyalty, and shared how lucky he felt to witness his friend's happiness. "Here's to Barbara and Arnold," Mark concluded, raising his glass. "May your love continue to grow and your life together be filled with adventure and joy." As the night wore on, the dance floor became the epicenter of celebration. Arnold and Barbara danced together, lost in their world. The romantic melody of their first dance gave way to more upbeat tunes, and soon, guests joined in, filling the floor with a lively mix of graceful moves and enthusiastic steps. Barbara couldn't help but notice the way Arnold's eyes sparkled with delight as he twirled her around. It was as if the world had melted away, leaving only the two of them. Later in the evening, when the guests had begun to wind down, Barbara and Arnold took a moment to themselves. They stepped outside onto the terrace, where the cool night air was crisp and refreshing. The view of the city lights below was breathtaking, and the stars above seemed to twinkle in celebration of their union. "I can't believe how perfect today has been," Barbara said softly, leaning against the railing beside Arnold. "It's been magical," Arnold agreed, his arm wrapped around her. "But I know that the best is yet to come. We have so many adventures ahead of us." Barbara sighed contentedly, her heart swelling with love. "I'm so grateful to have you in my life. You've made all my dreams come true." Arnold kissed her gently on the forehead. "And you've made mine come true. Together, we'll create a life filled with love and happiness." As they stood there, enveloped in the serenity of the night, they both felt an overwhelming sense of contentment. The journey they had embarked upon was just beginning, and they were eager to face whatever the future held, hand in hand. The night eventually gave way to dawn, and as the first light of morning filtered through the curtains of their wedding suite, Barbara and Arnold awoke to a new chapter in their lives. They were now bound not only by the vows they had exchanged, but by a deep and abiding love that promised to grow stronger with each passing day. Their honeymoon was a blissful escape, filled with exploration and relaxation. They traveled to picturesque destinations, savoring the simple joys of being together. Each day was a new adventure, and each night was filled with quiet moments of reflection and connection. They reveled in the freedom to discover new places and create new memories, all while deepening their bond. As they returned to their everyday lives, Barbara and Arnold embraced their roles with enthusiasm. Barbara continued to excel in her career, now with a renewed sense of purpose and balance. Arnold's architectural projects flourished, each one a testament to his creativity and dedication. Together, they worked on personal and professional goals, always supporting and encouraging each other. Years passed, and their love remained a constant source of strength and joy. They celebrated milestones, both big and small, and navigated life's challenges with grace and resilience. Their home was filled with laughter, love, and a profound sense of fulfillment. Barbara often looked back on that fateful bus ride as a turning point, a moment of serendipity that led to a life she had once only dreamed of. With each new chapter, Barbara and Arnold's love story continued to evolve, a testament to the power of fate, the joy of unexpected encounters, and the beauty of finding one's soulmate. As Barbara and Arnold made their way from the cemetery, a deep sense of loss and sadness hung over them. The world seemed muted, the vibrant colors of life dimmed by their grief. Yet, amid the overwhelming sorrow, there was a flicker of hope and a shared resolve to honor Dustin's memory by living their lives to the fullest. Over the next few weeks, Barbara found herself enveloped in a fog of melancholy, struggling to come to terms with her father's sudden departure. The house, once a sanctuary of joy and laughter, now felt empty and silent. Arnold, ever supportive, tried to ease her burden, though he could do little to fill the void left by Dustin's absence. One evening, as Barbara was going through her father's old belongings, she came across a small wooden box tucked away in the back of a closet. Curious, she carefully opened it to reveal a collection of old photographs, letters, and a few cherished mementos. Among them was a faded photograph of a young Dustin, full of youthful enthusiasm, standing next to a beautifully restored vintage car. Beside it was a letter addressed to Barbara, written in her father's familiar handwriting. With trembling hands, Barbara unfolded the letter and began to read. "My dearest Barbara, if you are reading this, then I am no longer by your side. I want you to know that I have always been incredibly proud of you. Watching you grow into the remarkable woman you are today has been one of the greatest joys of my life. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 3 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Life has a way of surprising us, often when we least expect it. It's not always fair, and it can be incredibly challenging. But remember this: you have the strength and resilience to face anything that comes your way. You have already proven that with your determination and the love you share with Arnold. In this box, you'll find a few things that I hope will bring you comfort and remind you of the many happy moments we shared. The saber, as you know, was passed down through generations, and I am honored to have given it to Arnold. It is now in his care, and I trust him to continue our family's legacy. I want you to find solace in the memories we created together. Hold on to them tightly and let them guide you through the tough times. Remember, I am always with you, in your heart and in every smile that lights up your face. Live your life with the same passion and joy that you have always shown. Cherish each day, and never forget how much you are loved. With all my love, Dad." Barbara's tears fell freely as she finished reading the letter. The heartfelt words from her father were a bittersweet reminder of the love and support he had always given her. She felt a renewed sense of determination to honor his memory and live her life in a way that would make him proud. Arnold, who had quietly joined her while she was reading the letter, held her close. "He was a wonderful man," he said softly, brushing a tear from Barbara's cheek. "And his love for you was boundless." Barbara nodded, her heart aching but also finding solace in the thought of her father's enduring presence. "I feel like he's still with us, guiding us," she said, her voice steady despite her emotions. "We need to keep moving forward, to live and love as he would have wanted." In the months that followed, Barbara and Arnold found ways to keep Dustin's memory alive. They dedicated a corner of their home to a small memorial with his photo, the saber, and some of his favorite things. They held a charity event in his honor, raising funds for causes he had supported throughout his life. As time went on, the pain of loss began to fade, though the memory of Dustin remained ever present. Barbara and Arnold continued to build their life together, cherishing the moments they shared and the love they had for one another. Their dreams of starting a family soon became a reality, and as they welcomed their first child, they felt a deep connection to Dustin's legacy. Barbara often looked at her father's photograph and the saber displayed in their home, feeling a sense of gratitude for the guidance and love he had given her. She knew that while he was no longer physically present, his spirit lived on in the strength of their family and the joy they found in their lives together. And so, amidst the challenges and triumphs of life, Barbara and Arnold embraced the future with hope and resilience, knowing that Dustin's love and wisdom would continue to guide them, just as he had always intended. Arnold glanced up from his chair, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. "What now, Barbara? I'm tired." Barbara's heart raced, but she forced herself to stay calm. "It's important. It's about the pawn ticket I found in your study." Arnold's expression hardened. "What about it?" "The saber, Arnold. It's a family heirloom, something my father passed down to you. Why would you pawn it?" Barbara's voice wavered as she spoke, her fear and hurt evident in every word. Arnold's face turned pale, a mix of shame and anger flitting across his features. He stood up abruptly, pacing the room. "You don't understand. It was necessary." "Necessary?" Barbara's voice cracked. "Necessary for what?" "To support a habit." "Support a habit? Is that what you think this is about?" Arnold's voice rose, his frustration spilling over. "I'm doing what I have to do to manage things right now. You have no idea what's going on." Barbara took a step closer, her eyes filled with a pleading sadness. Then tell me, what's happening? Why are you pushing me away? Why are you hiding things from me? Arnold stopped pacing and looked at her with a mix of guilt and frustration. I've been struggling with something, Barbara. It's not just about the saber. I've made mistakes, big mistakes. I didn't want to burden you with my problems, but I realize now that I should have been honest. Barbara felt a pang of sorrow and betrayal. Why didn't you trust me? We're supposed to face things together. Arnold's shoulders slumped, and he sighed heavily. I was ashamed. I started gambling, and I've been trying to cover up my losses. I thought I could fix it before you found out, but it got out of control. Barbara's heart ached. The realization that Arnold, her loving and supportive husband, had fallen into such a dire situation was almost too much to bear. Arnold, why didn't you come to me? We could have faced this together. We could have found a way through. Arnold looked down, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought I could handle it on my own. I didn't want to admit how deep I was in. I'm sorry. I see now that I should have been honest. The weight of his confession settled heavily between them. Barbara's anger and sadness were tempered by a deep sense of betrayal. Yet, despite the pain, she knew she had to find a way to move forward. Arnold, she said softly, we need help. This isn't something we can fix alone. We need to seek counseling and find a way to deal with this together. Arnold nodded, tears in his eyes. You're right. I've been foolish and I've hurt you. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. I promise. Barbara reached out, taking his hand in hers. We'll get through this. But we need to be honest with each other and work on rebuilding what we've lost. Arnold squeezed her hand, his voice breaking with emotion. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm grateful for it. I'll do everything I can to make it up to you. They embraced, both feeling the weight of the road ahead. The journey would be difficult, filled with emotional hurdles and the challenge of rebuilding trust. But in that moment, as they held each other, there was a glimmer of hope, a belief that, despite the trials they faced, their love could guide them through the darkness and into the light of a new beginning. Arnold's face tightened as he took in Barbara's determined stance. Barbara, this isn't a game. If you think you can just barge into my plans and demand answers, you're sorely mistaken. Barbara stood her ground, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and resolve. I'm not playing games. I'm your wife, and I deserve to know the truth. You've been distant, and now I find out you're planning a trip with someone else. How could you think I wouldn't notice? Arnold's eyes flashed with a mix of anger and guilt. You don't understand. You're not a part of this. I've made mistakes, but that doesn't mean you have to interfere. You're right, Barbara said, her voice trembling but firm. I don't understand everything, but I know enough to see that you're not being honest with me. I'm not going to let you leave without an explanation. If you want to go, then I'll come with you, whether you like it or not. Arnold stared at her, the conflict clear on his face. You're making a scene. This isn't going to help anything. Barbara's voice softened, though it remained resolute. I'm not trying to make a scene. I'm trying to save our marriage, or at least understand what's left of it. I need to know why you've been hiding things from me and why you've chosen to shut me out. Arnold's expression wavered, and for a moment, he seemed almost vulnerable. It's complicated. I didn't want to hurt you, and I didn't want to drag you into my problems. I'm already dragged in, Barbara said, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and determination. Whether you want it or not, I'm part of your life, and I have every right to be involved. If you're going to Paris, then I'm going with you. Arnold sighed heavily, his shoulders slumping as if the weight of his decisions was finally pressing down on him. Fine, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. If you're so determined, then let's go. But don't expect any easy answers. Barbara nodded, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. I just want the truth, Arnold, whatever that may be. They spent the rest of the morning in strained silence, both caught up in their thoughts. As they prepared to leave, Barbara's mind raced with questions and fears. She knew that the journey ahead would be challenging, but she was resolved to face it head-on. When they arrived at the airport, Barbara kept close to Arnold, her mind spinning with the possibilities of what awaited them in Paris. As they boarded the plane, the atmosphere between them was heavy with unspoken words. Barbara knew that the coming days would be critical for understanding the state of their relationship and whether there was a path forward for them. In the quiet confines of the airplane, Barbara glanced at Arnold, hoping for some sign of the man she had once known and loved. The future was uncertain, and the city of Paris was not just a backdrop for their journey, but a symbol of the many choices they would have to confront together. As the plane took off, Barbara closed her eyes, bracing herself for whatever revelations awaited them in the city of light. Barbara's breathing gradually steadied as the dream's intensity faded, leaving her trembling but awake. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow over the room, a stark contrast to the darkness of her nightmare. She rubbed her eyes and took a few deep breaths, trying to dispel the lingering fear and uncertainty. She glanced at the clock, nearly time to get ready for their flight. Arnold's earlier assurances seemed distant and hollow now. The dream's vividness, coupled with the unsettling reality of their situation, left Barbara feeling more uncertain than ever. She had hoped to trust him, but the nightmare had intensified her doubts. Rising from the bed, Barbara tried to shake off the lingering feelings of dread. As she moved about the room, her mind was awash with conflicting thoughts. She knew she had to face the reality of their trip and whatever lay ahead, but the fear from her dream gnawed at her, making her question every decision she had made. In the kitchen, Arnold was busy preparing breakfast, his demeanor calm and almost serene. He greeted her with a warm smile, but Barbara couldn't shake the uneasy feeling from her dream. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 4 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. "Good morning," he said cheerfully. "I hope you slept well." Barbara managed a weak smile. "Not really. I had a strange dream, and it left me feeling unsettled." Arnold's smile faltered for a moment but quickly returned. "I'm sorry to hear that. Dreams can be troubling sometimes. Just try to relax. We have a big day ahead." Barbara nodded, forcing herself to focus on the present. Yes, a big day. She took a seat at the table, her mind racing with thoughts of their upcoming trip and the need to remain vigilant. As they ate breakfast, Barbara resolved to stay alert and gather as much information as she could about Arnold's actions and intentions. She had hoped that confronting him directly would lead to answers, but now she realized that she needed to be more cautious and observant. When the time came to leave for the airport, Barbara found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. The excitement of Paris mingled with the fear of the unknown, creating a heavy atmosphere. Arnold's earlier warmth and tenderness now felt like a facade, and she couldn't shake the sense that something was deeply amiss. At the airport, Barbara tried to maintain her composure, but the unsettling feeling from her nightmare lingered. Arnold, on the other hand, appeared calm and focused, seemingly unaffected by the tension that Barbara felt. As they boarded the plane, Barbara resolved to stay vigilant and seek the truth, whatever it might be. The trip to Paris had taken on a new significance. No longer just a journey, but a critical moment to confront the reality of their marriage and Arnold's secrets. Seated next to Arnold on the plane, Barbara glanced at him, trying to discern any signs of deceit or hidden intentions. She knew that the days ahead would be crucial in unraveling the truth and determining the future of their relationship. As the plane ascended into the sky, Barbara looked out the window, the clouds stretching out below them. She hoped that the journey would bring clarity and that she would find the answers she so desperately needed. For now, all she could do was wait and watch, holding on to the fragile hope that the truth would reveal itself soon. Rhonda smiled warmly as she recounted the story. "So, Melvin and I found each other in the most unexpected of places. It turned out that we were both lost in our ways, but somehow we found a little bit of solace in each other's company." Melvin, his eyes twinkling with nostalgia, added, "It's funny how life works. We were both at our lowest, but that encounter turned into something beautiful. Rhonda gave me hope, and I suppose I offered her a little bit of companionship." Barbara listened, the warmth from the tea mingling with the warmth of their story. The elderly couple's kindness and resilience were palpable, and their tale provided a glimmer of comfort in Barbara's turbulent world. She felt a connection to them, a sense of understanding that transcended her immediate troubles. "And now we're here," Rhonda continued, "trying to make the best of what we have left. We might be far from our former lives, but we've built something new together." Barbara looked around the cozy room, the sunlight filtering through the curtains and the aroma of fresh rolls and jam filling the air. Despite the challenges she faced, the kindness of Melvin and Rhonda provided a small but significant refuge. As they enjoyed breakfast, Barbara found herself opening up more, sharing the painful details of her recent experiences. Rhonda listened attentively, offering words of comfort, while Melvin occasionally interjected with wise remarks or encouraging nods. "I feel like I'm stuck in a never-ending storm," Barbara confessed, her voice trembling. "Arnold, my husband, has become a stranger. I thought we had a future together, but now, everything feels uncertain." Rhonda reached across the table and placed a comforting hand on Barbara's. "It's tough when the ones we love seem to drift away. Sometimes, the best we can do is take it one day at a time and seek out the strength within ourselves." Melvin nodded in agreement. "And remember, Barbara, even in the darkest times, there's always a light, even if it's just a small flicker. You've got to hold on to that and keep moving forward." Barbara felt a spark of hope amidst the lingering shadows of her grief. The support from Rhonda and Melvin, their shared wisdom and empathy, offered a sense of solace she hadn't found elsewhere. Their presence was a reminder that even amid personal trials, there was kindness and understanding to be found. As breakfast concluded, Barbara thanked her hosts once again. "I can't express how much your support means to me. You've made me feel less alone in this difficult time." Rhonda smiled gently. "We're all in this together. Sometimes, it's through our struggles that we find the strength to help others." With renewed resolve, Barbara prepared to face the day ahead. She knew that her journey with Arnold was far from over, but the compassion and solidarity she had experienced with Rhonda and Melvin gave her a sense of strength and perspective. As she left the cozy room, ready to continue her journey, Barbara carried with her the warmth and wisdom of her new friends, hoping that their light would guide her through the storm and help her find clarity in the days to come. Barbara felt a flicker of relief as Diaz spoke. His presence, calm and reassuring, was a stark contrast to the confusion and fear that had clouded her days. She looked at the young doctor with gratitude. "Thank you, Diaz," Barbara said softly. "It means a lot to me that you're here. I've been feeling so lost and uncertain." Diaz smiled kindly. "It's my pleasure, Barbara. Melvin and Rhonda are good friends of mine, and I'm here to help in any way I can. Your well-being is important, and I'll do my best to ensure you get the care you need." Rhonda returned with a steaming teapot and poured tea into delicate cups, offering one to Diaz and another to Barbara. The warmth of the tea and the kindness of their hosts created a soothing atmosphere. Barbara took a sip, letting the calming effect of the herbal blend ease her tension. "So, what do you suggest, Diaz?" Barbara asked, feeling a bit more at ease. "What can I do to improve my condition?" Diaz took a moment to gather his thoughts. "First and foremost, you need to focus on rest and proper nutrition. The stress and exhaustion you've been through have taken a toll on you. I'll provide you with some recommendations for a balanced diet and necessary medications if needed. It's also important to avoid any additional stress. If you follow these steps, you should start to feel better." Barbara nodded, absorbing his advice. She glanced at Melvin and Rhonda, whose caring presence had already made a significant impact on her. "I'm very grateful for your help and for Melvin and Rhonda's hospitality," Barbara said sincerely. "It's comforting to know I'm not alone in this." Diaz gave a reassuring nod. "You're not alone. We're all here to support you. And remember, if you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out." As the evening continued, the conversation flowed easily, and Barbara felt a sense of normalcy she hadn't experienced in days. Diaz's professional yet warm demeanor made her feel secure, and the stories shared by Melvin and Rhonda provided a welcome distraction from her worries. Before leaving, Diaz made sure Barbara had all the necessary instructions and reassured her that he would check in periodically. Barbara felt a renewed sense of hope as she thanked him. "Thank you, Diaz. I'll follow your advice and try to take it easy. It's a relief to know there's someone I can rely on." Diaz smiled and made his exit, leaving Barbara, Melvin, and Rhonda to continue their evening together. The weight of uncertainty had lightened, and Barbara felt a glimmer of hope for the future. As she settled into her makeshift bed that night, she reflected on the unexpected kindness she had encountered and found solace in the fact that people were willing to support her through these challenging times. With a renewed sense of determination, Barbara closed her eyes, hoping that tomorrow would bring clarity and healing. Barbara's sense of gratitude and relief grew stronger each day as she continued her recovery. Diaz's unwavering support had become a beacon of hope in her life. The hospital's sterile environment, once a symbol of her despair, now represented a place of healing and renewal. Her thoughts often drifted back to the kindness of Melvin and Rhonda, whose own hardships had not diminished their compassion. Their friendship had become a vital source of comfort, and Barbara found solace in their visits and stories. Diaz's daily presence and attention made a significant difference. His gentle demeanor and genuine care eased her anxieties and fostered a sense of safety. Each time he visited, he brought a new sense of normalcy and reassurance. The bouquet of wildflowers he had given her was a constant reminder of his kindness, brightening her room and her spirit. As Barbara began to regain her strength, she reflected on her journey and the remarkable people who had supported her. The story of Diaz's life and his courage in adopting a child despite the challenges moved her deeply. It was a testament to his character and a reminder of the goodness that still existed in the world. One day, as Barbara sat in the hospital's garden, enjoying the fresh air and the gentle warmth of the sun, she felt a profound sense of peace. The garden was a tranquil escape, with blooming flowers and the soothing sound of a nearby fountain. It was here that she found herself contemplating her future and the lessons she had learned from her ordeal. Her recovery was ongoing, but with each passing day, she felt more hopeful and empowered. She knew she still had challenges ahead, but the support she received had given her the strength to face them. She was determined to embrace the second chance she had been given and to move forward with resilience and gratitude. When Diaz visited her that evening, she was eager to share her thoughts with him. "Diaz," she began, "I've been thinking about everything you've done for me. I want to make the most of this opportunity to start anew. Your kindness has inspired me to focus on what truly matters and to give back in any way I can." Diaz smiled warmly, his eyes reflecting the depth of his empathy. "Barbara, you don't need to worry about repaying me. Seeing you recover and find hope is the greatest reward. Just remember that you're not alone, and you have the strength to overcome whatever comes your way." With renewed determination, Barbara felt a sense of clarity about her future. She knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but she was prepared to face it with courage and hope. The support of Diaz, Melvin, and Rhonda had shown her the power of compassion and the importance of staying connected to others, even in the darkest times. As she closed her eyes that night, Barbara felt a profound sense of gratitude for the kindness she had received. It was a reminder that even amid adversity, there was always room for hope and the possibility of a brighter tomorrow. Barbara listened attentively, touched by the way Douglas spoke about his life. The warmth and affection he showed for Henry were evident, and his devotion was clear in every word. As they talked, Barbara felt a sense of contentment, seeing how Douglas had managed to balance his responsibilities with his personal life despite the challenges. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 5 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. "Henry is lucky to have you," Barbara said sincerely. "It's clear how much you care about him and how hard you work to provide for him." Douglas smiled, a hint of pride in his eyes. "Thank you. I try my best. It hasn't always been easy, but moments like these make it all worth it." As they continued their conversation, Barbara couldn't help but feel grateful for the chance to reconnect with Douglas. His presence brought a sense of normalcy and joy to her life, and she appreciated the effort he had made to visit her even after she had left the hospital. The afternoon turned into evening, and the conversation flowed naturally, filled with laughter and shared stories. Barbara found herself opening up about her own experiences and challenges, and Douglas listened with genuine interest. The time they spent together was a refreshing change from the solitude she had known. As the visit came to an end, Douglas and Henry prepared to leave. Barbara walked them to the door, feeling a pang of sadness at their departure. "Thank you for coming by and for everything you've done for me," she said, her voice filled with appreciation. "It was my pleasure," Douglas replied, his smile warm and reassuring. "We should do this again sometime, and don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything." Barbara nodded, feeling a sense of comfort knowing that she had made a friend in Douglas. "I'll keep that in mind. Safe travels, and give Henry a hug from me." Douglas waved as he and Henry walked down the path, and Barbara watched them with a smile, feeling a renewed sense of hope and connection. As the evening grew darker, Barbara returned to her home, reflecting on the meaningful interactions she had experienced. Her encounter with Douglas had reminded her of the importance of genuine relationships and the impact of kindness. The warmth of their visit had uplifted her spirits and provided her with a sense of belonging and support. With a heart full of gratitude, Barbara settled into her evening routine, feeling more at peace and optimistic about the future. She knew that, despite the difficulties she had faced, she was surrounded by people who cared and that she was on a path toward healing and renewal. The evening settled with a quiet warmth that enveloped the small living room. Barbara, Douglas, and little Henry had just enjoyed a simple but heartfelt meal together. As Douglas finished cleaning up, Barbara looked around at the cozy space, feeling a deep sense of contentment. It was a stark contrast to the loneliness and pain she had experienced in recent months. Douglas had been a steady presence in her life, and his care for her and his son had made her feel a part of something meaningful once more. The bond she had developed with them was palpable, a connection forged through kindness, shared struggles, and the joy of new beginnings. Barbara watched as Douglas gently rocked Henry to sleep. The room was filled with the soft murmur of lullabies and the faint rustling of Henry's stuffed toys. It was a scene of serene domesticity, and Barbara's heart swelled with affection for both father and son. As Douglas finished tucking Henry into bed and dimming the lights, he walked over to Barbara, who was sitting on the sofa, her mind awash with thoughts of the future. She looked up at him, her eyes shining with anticipation. "Douglas," Barbara began, hesitating slightly, "I've been thinking about the nursery for Henry. I know it might seem early, but I've been talking to some friends, and I believe we could get a spot sooner than you think." Douglas, looking puzzled, sat down beside her. "Really? I'm skeptical about that. I've heard that there are long waiting lists for good nurseries." Barbara smiled reassuringly. "I've already spoken to the director of the nursery next to my place. We were school friends, and she promised she could arrange a part-time spot for Henry. It's not officially open yet, but she's willing to make an exception." Douglas's eyes widened with surprise and gratitude. "Barbara, that's incredibly generous of you, but how can I repay you for all your help?" Barbara shook her head, her expression softening. "You don't need to repay me. I want to help you and Henry because I care about both of you." The sincerity in her voice touched Douglas deeply. He reached out and took her hands gently, his eyes reflecting a mix of affection and resolve. "Barbara, I've been meaning to talk to you about something important," he said quietly. Barbara's heart skipped a beat. She sensed the gravity in his tone and looked at him with curiosity. "What is it, Douglas?" Taking a deep breath, Douglas continued, "I know this is sudden, but I can't keep my feelings to myself any longer. Barbara, I've fallen in love with you. You've become such a vital part of my life and Henry's. I want to spend my life with you and build a future together. Will you marry me?" Barbara's eyes widened in shock, and for a moment, she was speechless. The proposal was unexpected, but it also felt right. She had grown to care deeply for Douglas, and the idea of a shared future was both exciting and comforting. Tears welled up in her eyes as she took in the earnestness of Douglas's gaze. "Douglas, I don't know what to say. This is so unexpected, but I've realized that I feel the same way. I love you too." Douglas's face lit up with a radiant smile, and he pulled Barbara into a warm embrace. The intimacy of the moment was palpable, and Barbara felt a profound sense of belonging as Douglas's arms encircled her. Just then, the door creaked open, and Henry, who had been stirring in his sleep, peeked out from his crib. He rubbed his sleepy eyes and looked at the two adults with a curious expression. "Papa, Mama," he murmured, his voice soft and innocent. "What are you doing?" Douglas scooped up his son and held him close. "Henry, sweetheart, we're just talking. This is Barbara, who's going to be a very important part of our lives." Barbara reached out to Henry, her heart swelling with affection for the little boy. "Hello, Henry. It's nice to finally meet you properly." Henry looked up at Barbara with wide, trusting eyes and reached out a small hand. "Hi," he said with a shy smile. "Are you going to be my mama?" Barbara's heart melted at the question. "Yes, Henry, I am. And I'm so happy to be." Douglas, holding Henry in his arms, looked at Barbara with a mixture of relief and joy. "We've talked about it and we're planning our future together. I want to make sure Henry grows up in a loving and supportive environment." The family shared a tender moment, hugging and laughing together. Barbara felt a deep sense of peace and happiness, knowing that she was part of something truly special. The warmth of Douglas's embrace and the joy in Henry's eyes made her feel that she had found her place. In the days that followed, Barbara and Douglas began to make plans for their life together. They talked about their dreams and aspirations, from finding a new home to discussing how they would balance work and family life. Barbara took an active role in organizing Henry's nursery arrangements, ensuring that everything was in place for his smooth transition. Douglas continued to work at the hospital, his shifts carefully balanced with his responsibilities as a father. Barbara enjoyed preparing meals for them, helping with Henry's care, and finding joy in the small moments they shared as a family. She also took time to reflect on her journey, from the struggles of her past to the new chapter she was about to begin. One day, as they were walking through the park with Henry, Barbara looked at Douglas and said, "I feel so grateful for everything we have. It's amazing how life can change in unexpected ways. I never imagined I'd find such happiness after everything I've been through." Douglas took her hand and squeezed it gently. "Life has a way of surprising us, doesn't it? I'm grateful too, for you and Henry. We've built something beautiful together, and I'm excited for what the future holds." As they continued their walk, the family enjoyed the simple pleasures of their time together: Henry's laughter, the warmth of the sun, and the feeling of unity. Barbara knew that they faced challenges ahead, but with Douglas and Henry by her side, she felt ready to embrace whatever came their way. Their journey was just beginning, but the love and support they shared made every step of the way worthwhile. Barbara looked forward to the future with hope and excitement, knowing that she had found her true family and a place where she truly belonged. As we come to the end of this heartwarming story, let's take a moment to reflect on the journey we've witnessed. From the unexpected kindness of Dr. Douglas to Barbara's journey of healing and the formation of a new family, there are so many valuable lessons to take away. We've seen the power of compassion, the impact of selflessness, and the beauty of finding hope and love even in the most challenging times. Now, we want to hear from you. What has this story taught you? Is there a particular lesson or insight that resonated with you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us one thing you've learned and how you plan to bring that lesson into your own life. If you enjoyed this video and found it inspiring, please leave your comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more uplifting content. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to you. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to hearing from you in the comments.